So it is midnight as I am recording this, and there is something I do want to talk about, and it is why I do not like the autistic community. Well, I do like some autistic people that I've met, hung out with, and chatted with. The Autistic Gaming Initiative, that's probably the only group I'll give an exception to because everyone there is, everyone's very civil. They understand that, everyone has their own individual values and everyone respects each other. You know, we're all on the spectrum, we're all diagnosed. And, if they're self diagnosed and, they're working on trying to save up to get a diagnosis, then, good for them, good for them. It's okay to theorize. I don't blame them. But the reason why I want to talk about the autistic community is because I've been noticing a lot of what's been going on. And I feel like I need to talk about what I've seen and why I do not want to be associated with them at all. So, one of the things that I've noticed a lot is the outcry and judgment that I've seen a lot of them do to anyone. It can be neurotypicals, which sometimes I don't blame because neurotypicals can be kind of in some points. But I've noticed it happen within their own community, specifically the neurotypical passing kind, like me. Like I'm neurotypical passing. I'm also autistic. I was diagnosed in 2008. 2008 or 2009, I was like 11 years old at the time. Yeah, I think it was 2009. And sometimes people have first impressions of like, when they find out about their diagnosis, what do they think, what research do they go to, what people they came across with and what they've noticed. And I've seen like this entire group of people, of autistic people, just straight up gatekeep a lot of things. And would actively guilt trip a lot of people into believing them and to like kind of doing as they wish or as to believe and whatnot. And it don't just have to be about autism. I've seen a guy who labeled someone who had like 4 million followers on TikTok as somebody who just so happens to have white privilege to have all of these followers. Like, what the actual fuck? Straight up guilt tripping this creator, just, expressing themselves just as much as everyone else has. And, you just throw it at it oh, you're just fucking lucky, aren't you? Huh? I mean, I'm no guy with like I don't have like hundreds of thousands of followers on TikTok or YouTube or subscribers on YouTube I have like 1,300 followers on Twitch, but that was just me like, streaming consistently just by myself. I didn't need a lot of people's help. I mean, I did have a lot of help. I didn't need, but it wasn't like my goal was to get to 1 million followers. Would be cool, but like that's not always the end goal. It's always about the journey rather than the destination, if you know what I mean. Like, you make it up to a certain point, and then, like, you feel like, you know, this is fun. I like doing this. Who cares about numbers? It's fun. And then you just see the autism community just assume because they have all these followers that that they can, like, influence people to think otherwise and not what they think. And whether it be little or a lot of just whatever, people would just have the type of disagreements you see. And this happens like in a lot of other communities where, like, if there is a disagreement, just a small disagreement, like it can be very tiny, it can be that same result as typical relationship drama I would hear, where it's just one little thing and shit hit the fan and everyone is going at each other. And no one's perfect. I mean, not everyone says the right thing and says, anything perfect. And it happens. Like, not everyone's best at communicating. Like, I'm autistic. I'm not the best at communicating. I could be awkward and weird, and that's okay. That's okay. Sometimes we learn as we grow, and we learn about how we communicate. We better ourselves. That doesn't mean we don't want to lose our autism. No, that just means we want to, like, improve ourselves. It's like exercising. We want to get big and strong muscles, kind of. We want to see some things. We want to understand things. We want to, like, have a better understanding of, like, everything around us. Like, it took me a while to figure out my own morals and, like, what I feel is good for me, and what my impressions are of everyone around me. When I found out my diagnosis, I was pissed. Not at my diagnosis though. I was pissed at people. And I can get why a lot of people in the autistic community would kind of relate to that, because they've been around people that were ignorant, completely irresponsible of understanding, or just wanting to understand, or just engage in that understanding. And then they feel they just take the needs of themselves and just, like, think that they want to be the saviorism to our problems, when in reality they can just make things much worse. And, we autistic people would try to, like, address some things and, work with people and, let them know about things. And, sometimes there are disagreements here and there, but, like, when it comes to the autistic community, they just go far above and beyond. And, I've heard people attack one side, I've heard another attack the other side, and it just becomes a big mess. And I feel like no one in that community knows what the hell a middle ground really is. Because a my way or the highway mindset is not the same thing as a middle ground mindset. Because, like, I would usually think a middle ground mindset would be, okay, okay, I see where you're coming from, but I don't agree because of this, this, and this. Not because you are this, this, and this, but because this is this and this. Just little things, right? Some, just nitpicking at, like, kind of, what I agree with. Like, there are some things that, the autistic community I agree with. Like, I agree that, I'm not a fan of functioning labels like high functioning and low functioning, but I agree with, like, this idea that everyone's got their own kind of circle. Like, we're better at this and some are not better at that. And, maybe some people have, like, a very smaller circle. Some people have a very big circle. And, it really depends on the person. And, not everyone's perfect. There's no perfect human being. There's no perfectionist within autism at all. I mean, there can be people that want to be perfectionists, but there are people that are not perfect. I'm no perfect. And yet, one person would still attack me, trying to, like, convince me that I am some sort of this supremacist, when in reality, I'm just a guy trying to figure out what the fuck is going on here. And I want to understand. But when people just don't want me to understand, but when people just don't want to understand my perspective, the fact that I've been trying to understand their perspective just makes things so wrong and hypocritical. Because, like, they say they want middle ground, but no, they just want the whole pot. I say split, they say steal. That's kind of how what's been going on with the autistic community. It's been kind of a mess. And there are those that, like, have their own perception and, have things that they've gone through. It's not invalidating other people, because not everyone is this person. Not everyone's this person. This person's got his problems, his issues, and everyone's got their problems and their issues. They may not relate to him, but, they exist. They exist, but not everyone can speak for them because no one's lived in their shoes, technically. They probably could if they want to maybe understand, but they may not know the person, and that's fine. It's okay. That's what, show and tell is. If you want to share something, go ahead. It's not invalidating because, that it's what they do. And yeah, if that didn't happen to you, then it didn't happen to you. Not everyone's the same. And if you feel a certain way, then it's okay to share. No judgment, because people understand that you don't relate to it, because you never gone through that situation. And when I would share my things and my perception on, I disagree with this person because I feel like this person wants us to fit a certain stereotype. Because, people argue about stereotypes, yet they complain about people who so happen to just be the stereotype. Not everyone has to, not everyone ends up as the stereotype. I mean, I don't end up as the stereotype. Not all of it. Maybe I can relate to some of it, but, you know, there doesn't need to be a simple stereotype unless it's portrayed everywhere. Then that's, I guess, the stereotype, and not everyone is the same as the stereotype. I see a lot of films and shows that try to replicate this. I'm not mad at the actors. The actors were just doing their job. I usually blame the writing and directing mostly, because the actors are just trying to understand it, while the director is playing the I guess educator, kind of, with at the same time of this is how this works and this is how that works, and characters written like this and written like that. And I've seen neurotypicals try to attempt it. Most failed. They didn't age well. Sia is a piece of garbage. I will agree with that. And yeah, there's a lot of things that just kind of happened that that I agree and disagree with about the community. Now, I didn't really have a draft or anything thrown in front of me because honestly, I'm just staring at myself through OBS. I guess just getting this out there that, I don't want to be a part of a group of people that will just yell and bicker at other people amongst the community who just so happens to have, a different perspective and different understandings. Because, everyone's trying to survive themselves. Everyone's got their problems. Everyone's got their stories. And, like I said, just because you don't share the same story as them doesn't mean that they aren't autistic. There's no such thing as not being autistic enough. Or being autistic enough. All it is just we're just autistic people living our lives, trying to do the best we can to get out there. And whenever I mention it to people, whenever I mention it to jobs and whatnot, I get infantilized. And infantilizations happen too much. And I do agree that we get infantilized so much that we end up just getting pushed to the side, despite our different outlooks on things. Some of us may not be the best at expressing it, but we do what we can, and it's okay. Just as long as we try to get the message, or we try to get each other, we try to understand everything. So I'll just kind of go from there and just add on to one more thing, one more example. Do you remember that time when Beck Spectrum and Paige Lale and a bunch of other autistic creators tried to come together to create this like a fundraiser to kind of counteract Mark Rober's thing because everyone just was in disagreement about what Mark Rober was doing of him playing saviorism. And what we try to do, and I do say we because I actually was almost appointed to be on production for Beck Spectrum's event, or the Autistic Communities event. Like, I asked if they need any help, and they're like, yeah, yeah, sure, you can help us. And I never really got any word back. And then I saw what was going on, what was happening, and I kind of got a little confused. I at first like wanted to side with the autistic community, but then once I started like looking through other people's perspectives, I started looking at how odd it was that everyone just got so split up and just started attacking each other over, well, over for what the advocacy network did, or at least one of the employees did. I assume it's one of the employees. I'm not going to blame the entire group because I feel like one of the people there did not like what happened. I'm not gonna support advocacy. I don't support advocacy groups, but that in particular, when that incident happened, the author was like, pretty upset about that. But then the whole group just went at each other over racism. But I felt like it was more like classism than racism. And even the author kind of agreed on the idea it was more classism. Well, I think. It was a while since I looked at the conversation. Correct me if I'm wrong. Anyway, um, so when all that happened, I tried to like look at both sides, and no side took it, but no side really helped. As a matter of fact, one of the owners or one of the people in charge of the project, Beck Spectrum, she deleted her TikTok and everything, not out of guilt, but she was she wasn't handling it well. Like, she couldn't, like, she was trying to understand what was really going on and whatnot, and people were accusing them of racism and whatnot, and no lie, they really didn't show any evidence of most of that. And the evidence, when they try to show it, it really didn't explain anything at all. But they will try to like force it to like be this way, and then they'll just poke gossip at Beck Spectrum and Paige Leo constantly. And Paige Leo ended up like people pleasing to that point, which I feel like she shouldn't have to, but she did, and I felt like that kind of didn't go very well on her end. And I don't think she is good at handling things well, and that's okay. No one's perfect. But then like everyone just goes on a, like, they say it's educational, but it's more hate fueled, honestly. More hate and jealousy fueled. Because Beck Spectrum and Paige Layer are like two of the biggest creators on TikTok. On One of the few biggest creators on TikTok. And what happened there was kind of messed up. And everything just didn't happen. Like, when I saw the news on Philip DeFranco that this was going to happen, I was like, okay, this is cool. This is cool. I like this. But then once everyone just fell apart and started going after each other, and pretty much anyone that like wanted to like find a middle ground as much as I was trying to as well were shut down. Like, they were getting shut down, they were getting thrown apart. People were saying, "Oh, we need and then it went from like an autism problem to like a racial problem. Or like people were accusing people, mainly white people, of being racist, when like I just didn't know like where the racism was, and I tried to find some context on what was really going on, and it just really got out of hand. Like, it was just nothing but guilt tripping and complete. It was split. It was pretty bad. Everyone was going at each other, and then everyone tried to like people please, and everyone tried to people please, and I guess try to put BIPOC their channels just to like I guess make them grow, which in my opinion that doesn't work like that. As someone who's done a lot of Twitch for like 6 years, I can tell you that that's not how it works. It doesn't really help. But like when everything else was happening and all the accusations were flying everywhere and whatnot, all that drama was just going crazy. And then later, like I would kind of look at some things, and that's how the guilt tripping happened. Where like one of the creators would guilt trip a like a 4 million follower TikToker into believing that because of her skin, she's getting all those followers, and that privilege is why she's getting all those followers. And I felt like that was just probably the shittiest thing I have kind of seen being thrown onto someone, just guilt tripping everywhere. It was bad. Like they will take one part and then just shift it to another part and just say you don't matter. Like seriously, I had this feeling like everyone was like gonna be like kind of understanding middle ground, like maybe fix this, but no, it wasn't fixed. Everyone was still at each other's throats, and it went and it was bad. I was still never stop saying that everyone was at each other's throats because everyone was technically at each other's throats, and I just didn't know what was going on, what was happening, and I just wanted, and I decided to take an individualistic approach, and just wanted to come up with my own conclusions. And I didn't really come up with that conclusion until like I saw some more, and I started watching live streams of TikTokers just gossip against other TikTokers who just so happen to have more followers than them, assuming that they have the privilege and they have like all this stuff, and they wouldn't really show any evidence of what they did. I mean, I mean, Leo tried to show some evidence, and they kind of told her to take the video down. She consented to it, and yeah, I mean, she didn't have to, but like I felt like that was just kind of manipulative of the community to just do something like that. And it don't matter what race, gender, or sexual orientation is. That is manipulative as fuck. And I feel that's kind of all they're for. Like the autism community is just, it's they say that, they're nothing without. They're It's like here. Let me throw up the. It was more about nothing about us without us. I always looked at that quote, like everyone will keep saying that. I always wonder, who is us? The stereotype us or the individually us? Because I feel like the stereotype was pushed a lot within, and if we were like neurotypically passing, then we had to fit a certain stereotype to, I guess, become them. It just made no sense, really. And I feel like there are groups out there that 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 there are good communities out there. There are good communities out there that are full of autistic people that have an understanding of individualism more than just like having to just fit a certain aspect and a certain mindset. Like as someone who grew up going to church every Sunday, this felt just like that. It's either you say it's either we agree on the whole Bible or you're a piece of shit. That was kind of it. and it was shitty. And I wish that the community will come together and think about this for a sec, come together in understanding, and just start over. Because I feel like that community is more unwelcoming than the neurotypicals around society that I've ran into that have infantilized me. There's really not many safety nets for us. So, yeah, that's just it. And yeah, I don't got anything else to say. All I gotta say is that sometimes it's okay to think about things and understand perspective more than just sticking with an actual perspective and forcing people to look at it and think like it. In other words, to the autistic community, grow the fuck up.